my name is Krista. I'm a missionary with the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, and I work in Africa. We'll get to some of my story in just a smidge. Oh yeah, so I was born in Papua New Guinea. Who knows which flag is the Papua New Guinea one? Excellent. I was biologically Australian. Who knows which flag is the Australian flag? Aha, look at you world travelers, Geography B winners. And then I became a citizen of the United States when I was 13, which is the United States flag. Okay. Then, oh yeah, so these are pictures of me as a kid. I'm the cute small one. I currently look like I ate that small child, but you know, you grow up. And then that's me doing my Australian thing as a small kid before braces. Who knows what these two, yeah. How do you know that? You like flags. You're my new hero. Which one is which? Tell the people. Yes, Ethiopia is on your left. It used to be the Lion of Judah. Did you have one of those? And then a few years ago, which was a really cool flag, but they switched it to this cool starry thing. So as a missionary, I've lived in Papua New Guinea as a kid, missionary, but then as an adult, I've lived in these two countries in East Africa. So just a personal pet peeve, Africa's not a country. It's like 65 countries, okay? So I have a little arrow for Kenya, just for our friends who like geography. And Ethiopia is kind of the blue one, the light blue one right above it. So those are the two places where I hailed from. But you, tell me where you guys are from. Hawaii? What island? What island? Is Pastor Mitch your pastor? Called you out. You should know. If you're going to say Hawaii, you should know a town or something. Sorry. So these are all the places. And has anybody been to more than 10 states? Has anybody been to more than 20 states? Has anybody been to more than 52 states? Liar. Busted. Who thinks they've been to the most states in the United States? Oh, these guys are counting. Awesome. How many have you been to? 5 left. Which ones do you still want to go to? All right. So so who's from California? Oh, okay, no friends there. Can't stay with them. Who's from Washington? Oh, there's a kid up here from Hawaii, but he doesn't know where he lives in Hawaii. You could visit him. I thought that if there were people, you could make friends and say, hey, I'm coming next week. All right? Coming to your house. So we're talking, who likes Dr. Seuss? So I was going to have this entire session rhyme for an hour, but I couldn't think of what rhymes, but that might take too much time. And then it would be a long session, and you might not get to the next lesson. You might be rushed. Yeah, so anyway, that's as far as I got. So I am not Mrs. Seuss, so thank goodness, because that would maybe drive you a little crazy. It would drive me crazy. But who knows how to read? Awesome, awesome. Can you read this verse for me nice and loud? Oh. She got tricked.
Okay. Then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They came out of the town and made their way toward him.
Thank you. What's your name? Kristen, you're awesome. Thank you. Who knows where this story is in the Bible? It's in John. Okay. Yay, extra credit. You guys are geniuses. Who is this woman that Jesus is talking to? Yes. Yeah. The woman who was the thirsty woman who needed some water, right? She was going to get her water at the well, right? And what do you know about that woman? very poor. I'm not sure if we know that from the scriptures. She was a Samaritan. Yeah, she was poor in, she made poor decisions, maybe. She had had a few men in her life, and so she was living in shame, right? So Jesus has this encounter with her. He tells her about worship. He tells her about how to worship in the Spirit and in truth. And what does she do? She is like the outcast of her village, of her town, right? She doesn't probably have very many friends. She might be the person that everybody kind of looks at and goes, "Can you believe what she's doing?" Right? But she goes back. She has this encounter with Jesus, and she goes, "Let me tell you about this man I met." Right? And I'm so inspired by her story because, not because I've had, no, I'm inspired by her story because she's not perfect. She wasn't righteous and holy and do everything right. But she met Jesus, and then she wanted to go and tell, right? So how many of you know who Jesus is? Oh, these guys don't. Let me tell you. Oh, you do? You do? Okay. Do you know? Okay. Whew, if you didn't, I thought we'd have to start all over from the very beginning. So how many of you go and tell others about Jesus? Sometimes we forget that part, right? It might be a little scary. So what are the places that you go? Who do you know? What are the circles of friends that you interact with? And what might be some of the ways that you can share your story about Jesus with them? So I love this picture because it's like, I'm running to tell, like, I have friends who don't know Jesus, and it's an urgent message. We have to tell them. We can't be like, okay, I'll get there someday. Or are we going to, like, have the sense of they need to know? We have to be the ones to tell them. So I work with the Office of International Missions, the LCMS. There's a booth downstairs. You can learn all sorts of things about us. It's your church. It's the missionaries that your churches send to the globe, around the world, to tell the story. But you also get to tell the story of Jesus, right? It's not a secret. So here's all the cool places that your church has missionaries around the world. Some are places that we can say, yeah, there's lots of people, we're doing great work. Others are places where we have to just say, they're teaching English, because we can't tell the local government that they're teaching the Bible. They're teaching the English with the textbook of the Bible, right? So there's some places that are called closed countries that we can't share all the things. So as missionaries, they go lots of places. My job is to help congregations in the United States partner with churches in Africa. So how many of you did Bible study this morning? So in our Bible study, the lady, who I don't know what her name was, she talked about the majority world, like where the majority of Christians are. Was anybody else in that session? Okay, Pastor Gabe, and then the other cool lady who travels a lot. Do you remember her name? Blythe. Nice job. See, somebody's paying attention. Excellent. It's a quiz. I'm just checking, yeah. So she was saying that only 10% of the world's Christians live in the United States. If you think about the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, we have less than 2 million people in our church body. 2 million sounds like a lot, right? I mean, half of them are here this week, right? It seems like. So 1.8 or 1.9 million, depending on who you ask. In Ethiopia, the Lutheran Church there, called Makana Jesus, has over 10 million members, one of the fastest growing churches in the world. They average about 1,000 baptisms a day. In Madagascar, they have 8 million people in the Lutheran Church of Madagascar. Same situation. So when we think about like churches that are growing and things we can learn from other places, it's pretty amazing. So my job is to help Americans who want to learn more and partner with churches in Africa, and help kind of do some training and some cultural interpretation so they kind of know how to do things, and so that work can be done well. Sometimes, as Americans, we think we want to help, but actually, we can end up doing more harm. So there's this really cool company that a few years ago, made shoes. And it was the deal where, like, some of you might have bought them, where you buy a pair of shoes and they give a pair of shoes to a kid in a third world country, right? Yeah. We'll call them Joes, just so I'm, or hypothetically, they could be called Toms. So this is a great, who wouldn't want to do this, right? That's a great idea. Shoes for kids who don't have shoes? Of course I'll buy these shoes, and they're cute. So why not? So this big truck of donations will come to a village, and everybody gets shoes. And, it's an awesome thing. Anybody think there's anything wrong with that? You do? What do you think is wrong with that? Shout out. They don't have socks. Oh, man. What could the sock company be called? They don't need socks for these shoes. But go. There's a lack of relationships.
I read something about this. They killed off all the local shoe stores that were already in Africa and bankrupted a lot of people.
What's your name?
Tanner.
Where did you read about that, Tanner?
I
In a
don't
book.
remember. Probably in a book.
On the internets? On the interfaces? Tanner's exactly right. So a huge donation of shoes shows up in your village. Next time you need shoes, are you going to go shop and buy them? Or are you going to wait for the next truck of donations? I'm going to wait because I'm cheap, right? I love free stuff. But what ended up happening over years with all of the free shoes that were coming in is that the places that made the shoes in all of the areas, the leather, the materials, the stores that sold them, all of those places went out of business because of free shoes. Well, then the donation truck decides to go, okay, we've been here for 10 years. That's awesome. Now let's give another village a chance. And all of a sudden, there's no materials left, and there's no machinery, and now this village can't make their own shoes anymore. And so they've taken the economic status of this village that used to be maybe here. They thought they were bringing them up to here, but in actuality, what did they do? They lowered the economic status of this village. And they did it outside of relationships, and they did it in a way that says, we are the mighty Americans. We bring you gifts of salvation called shoes, right? And shoes don't share the gospel, right? They take us to places to share the gospel, but there was no relationship, and it can end up giving the message that the white people from America are the ones who bring gifts. And so why would I make my own shoes? Because someone is supposed to drop them off and deliver them to me. So we've also altered the mentality of a whole village. Do you see how that's like boo? Everybody say boo. Yeah, don't do that. But we thought we were doing such a good thing, right? So helping without hurting, that's the name of a book you can read. Toxic Charity, that's another name of a book you can read. When Helping Hurts, there's a YouTube video series you can watch on it if you don't want to read, if you don't read. That just has like these stories of people like this and situations where this has come up. So my job is to help Americans who want to help in the very best ways that aren't going to cause any damage or hurt people. And dignity is such a thing, right? Like, if the shoes could be given to the parents who could earn the shoes to give to their children, then that dad can walk around like, I can provide for my family. But if someone else just comes and dumps stuff to give to their kid, then, where's the dignity for the mom and dad, right? And how do they look at their children and say, yeah, I can't provide for you, but those people from over there can. So in Africa, I'm going to tell you some of the awesome things that we do, some of the ministries that your churches support. One is called a Tin Roof Project, and this is where a local congregation will make their own bricks. If you haven't ever seen a group of people make bricks, it's phenomenal. They bring a big mound of sand and the water, and then they put them in a mold, and then they let the sun bake them. It's a long process. It's hard work. But if the church builds the building, they can ask for a grant for the roof. The tin roof sheets are the most expensive parts, and so there's a grant in the Africa mission field that churches can get a tin roof for the church building. So you see how they've worked with us. They've worked together. Then they get a grant, and missionaries help them put the roof on. Very cool. It's one of my favorite churches in Tanzania. They're the old church is on the inside, and they're building the church on the outside. And then this kid is like running through. Time for church. Medical missions can be done two different ways. Some people do medical missions like they just show up with the doctors and all the medications, and they come into a village and they're like, okay, we're here to help you. You've been sick. Here's medication. Do you think there's any concern about bringing medications from a different country? Yeah, they're usually not in the right language. They don't look like the same medications that I'm used to, and they're in pounds instead of kilos. So if I ever want to get this medication again, I can't take it to the pharmacist and say, I need some of this one, because I can't get this one in your country. So how the LCMS does medical missions is we partner with local churches, the local doctors, the local pharmacists, and we work together, and the medical missions are hosted in a congregation so that when we leave, they still have faces and names that they recognize in their own community. We've bought the things that we need from their community. So we've we've let the money stay in the community. It's really cool. Plus, cute nurses and cute babies. Community health education is a program where churches can offer different workshops for people. And the workshops might be about, like we've done lots of COVID things. We've done women's issues in the life cycle of a female body. We've done all sorts of agricultural stuff, all sorts of things where we train a couple people who then go into their village and train their friends and fellow workers. And again, it's like lifting them up in their community so they can go and tell everybody, and we're there to support and help them. Pretty cool. Mission training centers. So remember I told you some of those huge churches in Africa? So Makana Jesus has 8 to 10, I think it's 10 million now, members and like 4,000 pastors, right? And they don't build like ginormous churches. What they do is they have pastors that go from church to church to church to church to church to church to church. So one pastor might in a month, even in one Sunday, might hit 2 churches, and in a month might hit 6 to 8 churches where he just visits, or it might only be once every 4 months that he can get there and bring communion and, be with his people. Well, in the meantime, they have people called evangelists, which might be sort of like our lay leaders, your elders maybe. So this is a training session that these evangelists can be trained in the Bible and overview of things. This is agricultural consultants that come and teach and work together with how can we help with the pests without using pesticides. There's this huge gross worm called the army worm, and they're really nasty looking. And they talk about how to help the army worm not kill all their crops. It's kind of a cool program. We have partnerships, specific congregational partnerships like the ones I'm trying to build now. And there's a couple churches that are already in the program, moving and grooving. And there's a church from Missouri, whoop, whoop, who comes to a village called Kahe, and they walk together with the local pastors, and they visit the people and tell them about the gospel. So life is a little different there, right? Like here you would not walk up to someone's home, ring the doorbell, and let me come on in and sit down and tell you all about Jesus. But in Tanzania, that's what they do. They're outside all the time. You walk up to say hello, they'll offer you tea and food, and you sit down, and you might be there for a couple hours getting to know them and telling them about Jesus, and it's pretty fun. There's another church that has a partnership in the refugee camps in northern Kenya, where people from the South Sudan, Gambela, Ethiopia, regular Sudan, there's people from different places that have had to leave their countries for safety, and the UN provides these tent houses and a little bit of firewood and a little bit of food, and these people live there, and they've started churches, and they bring people to church, and it's a phenomenal thing for me. I kind of grew up thinking, well, that's the pastor's job, right? To tell people about Jesus. Isn't that kind of, he went to seminary, he knows all the stuff. Who thinks that we kind of tend to maybe think a little bit like that, right? Well, being in East Africa has changed my whole mindset, because they don't have enough pastors, and the pastors aren't available. And so if someone's going to learn about Jesus, whose job is it? It's ours, right? And that's something I think our American churches could get really excited about. And they don't have air conditioning. They don't worry about what color the carpet is in their church, right? They're not concerned about which hymnal we're using. They're concerned about each other and being in community and sharing the gospel and learning God's word. And this particular community has I think they told me they have 3 or 4 Bibles that they literally pass around. And so the one thing, we asked them, what do you want? And we were kind of thinking they were going to ask for shoes or clothes or food. And they asked us, next time you visit, can you bring us Bibles in our own language? Can you imagine? That's the one thing you want more than anything else. It was very cool. Here's the kids listening. They're just raptured by my speech. Can you see? They're just but I think this girl's face is what is this white lady talking about? Cracks me up. She's a sweet kid. Another awesome program that the Lutheran Church has is a child sponsorship program. Who's heard of Compassion International? Who's heard of World Vision? Who's heard of Christ Care Children for Kenya? See, it's the Missouri Synod's best kept secret, but it's not a secret. We have a program in Kenya. They have 8 homes where children can come and live. And these are children that are at risk, that could not go to school because of where they live or because of the level of poverty, or they're orphans, right? So they live so remotely that they can't get to school. So the church body in Kenya has partnered with the LCMS, and they build these homes. The local pastors say which children need to go to the home in their region, in their area. And the homes are always built next to a church that will be the church sponsor, and nearby a school that they can walk to. So these children get an education, and then they go home on long vacations, long term, what would be your summer break, but it's in their winter, to their families or to their communities, to their aunties and grandmothers who might be taking care of them if they're orphans, things like that. So they connect to their local language and their local people, but then they stay at these homes during school, like a boarding facility, right? And you can sponsor, you can sponsor a child directly. And you can you get the letters, you get the pictures. It's a really amazing thing. And these kids get, they have a pastor and a deaconess, people that stay on site with them. And those were the kids that at the beginning, if our sound would have worked, they were going to sing. Do you remember that first slide? They came from one of these homes, and they just loved singing, and it was really cool. Sorry, it didn't work out. Because I also recruit volunteers for short-term teams. Some of the short-term teams, some of the funnest, is that a word, funnest? Most fun, funner? An awesome short-term opportunity is to serve with missionary kids. So twice a year in Africa, all of the missionary grown-ups get together for conferences. And they're learning, there's seminary professors that come, and they have to learn different things that are happening around their region and continuing education. But they all have children. Well, many of them have children. And so a really fun thing is to bring like a VBS or a camp type setting to whatever country we're meeting in Africa, and hang out with those children. And so this was a couple years ago. This was the last one in October at the beach in Kenya. Who knew that Kenya had beautiful beaches? Woo-woo! And if you're interested in serving on one of those teams, I am the person who can help you, hook you up with that. So think about, what do you want to be when you grow up? Who wants to be an accountant? All right. That's your tax person right there. Get to know them. Who wants to be a doctor? A nurse? The person who reads your, I don't even know what they're called. X-rays. X-ray tech. Firefighter. What do you guys want to be? Who doesn't know? There you go. All right. Who wants to be a teacher? Awesome. Who wants to be a church worker? Yay, my heroes. You're all cool. Don't worry about that. Who wants to be a musician? All right. What else do we have? Business. Who wants to learn about business? Very cool. Who loves Jesus? All right, there you are. So you've heard the concept of vocation, right? Our vocation is just who we are and what God has given us to do in front of us. So some of my vocations are, I'm a missionary, I'm a wife. I didn't even tell you, I have a really awesome husband. He's really cool. I have 2 daughters, so I'm a mom. I'm a dog owner. I do have the cutest dog. And for the adults in the room, if you want to come to my next session, my dog is my hero for how to do Sabbath rest. So if you want cute pictures of my dog. So those are all vocations that God has put me in, right? So they can either glorify God or they cannot. So I can be an accountant. I couldn't because I can't count. But in theory, someone could be an accountant who also glorifies God by serving with integrity and honesty and all of those things. And you can volunteer in the church, you can work in the regular force, but God is kind of asking you to do it with integrity and with your heart. Also, any of those jobs could be missionaries overseas, right? So that's the website if you want to learn where to serve. Serve now. This picture again, but again, the concept of come and hear, come and see what God is doing. Join me in the process. Join me on this journey of faith. I love this one because it's God is my refuge, and then I'm going to tell you of his deeds, right? So it kind of connects to this concept of story. What are the things that I'm learning and growing? I don't have to know it all. I don't have to have all of the answers. I don't have to have gone to seminary. I just have to know that I love Jesus. And if someone asks me a question that I don't know, I'll say, let's go ask the smart guy. And I go find a pastor and I'll say, hey, help us understand this. And it works out just fine. Okay? So let's read this little sum together. Do you want to do it in a British accent? Yeah, I think so. It seems like Dr. Seuss works well. Okay. So, be your name Buxton or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai Van Allen O'Shea. Come on, everybody. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. All right, who's read that book before? Yeah. So, what's the connection? Yeah. You're going places. And what are you doing when you go those places? Just be you, right? Be the child of God. Be the person who loves Jesus. Be the light. There's a really cool song. It didn't work to get it on my presentation. But Chris Rice has a song. Now I can't think of what it's called. But it's Light Your Candle, Go Light Your Way. If you know that song, sing it later today. And it's kind of a cool, like it connected to last night. Light your candle as you go along your way. So wherever you go, this is a road in Uganda that is really bumpy. Sometimes we ask people if they want a massage. We call it the African massage because the roads like crank your spine in so many ways, bouncing around. It's really cool. This is my family a couple years ago. If you're interested in the work that we're doing, you can sign up for our newsletters. That's my cute husband and my 2 daughters. So I'm going to teach you a Swahili word, or some Swahili. Swahili is a language that you can use in several countries in East Africa: Uganda, Tanzania for sure, Kenya, parts of the Congo, okay? So the word for God is Mungu. Can you say that? Okay. The word for bless is barik. Does anybody know someone named Barak? Aha, yeah. So his name means blessed, by the way. It's a Swahili name. Aku is like translated all y'all. You know how you have to put like the plural, okay? And ki is those of you who are here. Ki is the placement, the place. Okay? So, aku bariki. Try that. So, Mungu aku bariki. All right. So, what have you just said to me? Thank you. God bless you too. Ha ha ha. Get it? You just made you bless me. So, this is a bishop from Tanzania. They like to wear all the fancy schmancies. Oh. So that's all I have.